States, which is where we're headquartered. But we are everywhere, right? So we have members in Ghana, we have members in London, everywhere. And so if you go to our website, you will see a pop-up that says sign up for updates. Please do so because that's what gets you in the network. And we have a ton of events that are always happening. And this week is our Ghana week. So, what more than talking about empowering Ghanaians, which is what we are about, our mandate, empowering Ghanaians no matter where we live, with also how to move back home, how to buy land, how to manage the Lands Commission. So, we want to thank so much the Lands Commission for joining this conversation. um, how to buy real estate, how to manage this. So, this is the first of a series of conversations of which we're really going to delve into the issue. It's not just, hey, we want to sell you something, hey, buy, buy, buy. No, we really need to navigate some difficult, complex issues, especially because, so many of us, especially nowadays, we are trying to hop between home and the United States or home or wherever we're located, right? And so the fact that we're increasingly going back because whether it's business that we're doing or our charitable works that we're doing or we're managing things for our families back at home or we are literally like myself now officially as of this year being bicontinental and we're living partially in Ghana and partially here. This webinar series is for you, and we have the best of the best. We'll continue to invite new speakers. So if you have any suggestions, please pop it into the chat as well and suggestions about speakers and topics. We want this to be as helpful as possible for you all. And there's an opportunity to share information with one another. I'll say myself, like I said, this year, my family, we're going to become bicontinental. We've just settled on our home in West Tressaco, and it was a process. I'll tell you that. I mean, I must have met with 8 different realtors. I toured 200 homes, whether virtually or in person, trying to visit homes here while I was here. And as soon as I get touched in Ghana, making use of my time to book as many tours as possible. That's the best way to understand neighborhoods in Ghana. What is the right place for you to live for your family? Where do you need to be close to? Is it the mall? Is it the airport? Is it certain grocery stores? Is it certain schools? These are all important things to consider and understand when you're going back home. What is the trajectory of certain neighborhoods? Because it could be residential now, but not residential soon in the future. And I would love the Lands Commission to even share some thoughts about that because of, here in the United States, we're used to certain zoning laws and things of that nature. Do you understand the zoning laws in Ghana? Do you understand the rules? Sometimes we hear horror stories of people buying land or buying homes in certain areas only to find out that that developer didn't own that land or didn't have rights to that land and there's all kinds of legal issues. How do you navigate that? And so how do you avoid that? So we're not just talking about real estate and buying fancy homes. We're talking about the how do we navigate these issues as Ghanaian diasporans so that we can live our best lives, secure the futures for our families, for our friends, and really be able to contribute to the development of Ghana. Thank you so much. I want to thank the partnership with Kweku SC and Accesso Global. I want to also thank the team at Barracks GH. If you haven't checked them out yet, please do. They're a new apartment complex. And I also want to thank the Ghana Lands Commission for joining us today. Hopefully, I pray you can join us again soon because I suspect we're going to have more questions after we post the video of your presentation. Thank you so much, Kweku.
Thank you very much for that keynote introduction. that you just gave us today. And again, yes, I would love to thank GH Pack for doing this with us. It's a real honor, and I'd love to thank as well Barracks as well, Erwin. I'll put his properties on the screen at some point as well. Feel free to check it out, reach out to him, or reach out to us as well at CESO as well. I wish, Joa, that we had met perhaps before your journey, so we could have assisted you through it. But it's fine. I'm very happy that you've been able to navigate that and get it done, because as you said, it's not been made as transparent as easy as it should be. And that's a glitch in the matrix that we are really looking to solve here today, right? And so I'm very happy that we have with us, our esteemed lawyer Emmanuel Matekole. I'm hoping we'll also have the gentleman from the Lands Commission. He mentioned, unfortunately, that he is actually in a government meeting because it's a new government, but he may join as well. But if not, we can always have him maybe come later, or even perhaps in a future presentation. This partnership with GH Pack is really to delve very deeply into the real estate space in Ghana, right? And it's a topic that is very dear to my heart, real estate in particular. We don't think about it too much, but when you think about it, other than land, other than water and air, what can you not live without? Perhaps it's too obvious to say, but you can't live without land, right? And land touches all factors of our lives, and it affects even in a lot of ways just the development of any country, right? If you think about it, factories can be built because of land issues at times, which is an issue that has been presented to me in the past. Wealth creation in the world, one of the biggest ways, or probably the biggest way to create wealth in the world, is through land assets, owning a piece of land and increasing your wealth that way, being able to transfer that to your loved ones, etc., after as well, right? And so part of what we want to solve here is something that we believe is bigger than, as you just mentioned, just buying a nice home. Although we are here to help you buy a nice home as well, but it's also about being very systematic in what we are looking to do, right? And so I'll talk a little bit about CESO as well, and what we are trying to do as well in the market in Ghana and across Africa as well. So I hope you can see my site here, and I'll share the link with you all. But CESO Global has been operating in Ghana, Nigeria, and Liberia since 2020. And our thesis has been that there have been really systematic issues within the land sector across Africa, certainly in Ghana. And these issues, I'm sure we all have heard. Some of us, unfortunately, have been victim to it as well, right? With respect to land issues, with respect to fraud, scamming, etc. That has occurred to many different people across the continent, and it's what it leads to is real and perceived issues, right? Also perception issues that also affect the market. Because I want to also be very clear that there are people in Ghana who are legitimate. There are people in Ghana who are credible, who are looking to do real business, who are looking to provide a real service, a real product. And unfortunately, they are being lumped in with the bad actors, right? They're being lumped in with the bad actors, and yet being lumped in with the bad actors. And so, what we sought to do was create a platform that incorporates all the credible actors in the market, right? And it tries to reduce the layers of risk that are really a part and parcel of purchasing real estate on the continent. And so we sought to do that by first really analyzing the market and understanding who are the credible real estate developers in the market. And so today we work with over 100 real estate developers in Ghana. We seek to do verifications before we list them on our site. And so that's by checking land title documentation, checking company registration documentation, and then going to visit the site. It's not it's not a foolproof exercise, and any players that we find are also doing delinquent business in the market. We take them off the platform as well. But what we are really looking to do here is really create a platform where we're really bringing in the best of the best. And as part of these partnerships as well, we work with several banks as well to provide mortgages. And the banks, and I'll touch on this a bit more as well, have become big partners in this as well. A lot of the banks want to engage with the diaspora market. They want to hear from you. They want to provide you all with a service as well. And a lot of them are now providing what they call diaspora mortgages. So mortgages at rates anywhere from 11 to 14%, which I know is quite high compared to what's in the market in the States, but very low compared to what it was in the past, which could go up to 30% in the past on the city. And so a lot of them are working towards reducing this. And you'll find that really when you're paying these rates as well, it's not as much compared to as you would pay in the States in the total dollar amount, because the average property in Ghana is typically around, average 1 or 2 bed, depending on, or 3 bed, depending on where it's at, is around 100 to 150,000 to $200,000, depending on the location. And so for us, what we've sought to do on our site is provide you with different options. And so you can find on here, options in various different locations. You can see in and around Ghana and certainly in Accra. You can also find properties as well in and around all the various locations as well. So we're happy to assist you through that property journey. We understand that it's one where credibility, trustworthiness are key towards ensuring that this is being done properly. And so that part of what we also seek to do is to work with credible lawyers, right? And so that's part of why I'm happy to bring on here Emmanuel Matikele, who is going to take us through a presentation. He will be our main resource today, but of course, feel free to also ask me any questions. Feel free to ping in your questions in the chat. We're happy to get to them at the end of his presentation. And I'm happy to answer. Emmanuel is happy to answer, some of the real legal questions here, right? Which, I think are very important, right? People want to understand what is the legality of buying property here. What do I need to do, prepare myself before I even look to buy a property in Ghana? What do I need to understand myself? The information I need to arm myself with before I even get into this space. And then also then what do I need to do once I do find that property to ensure that I'm doing it legitimately, I'm doing it above the law, and I'm making sure that I'm protecting myself in the case of any issues, right? And we can also discuss what may happen if you do find yourself in that predicament, which is also very important, I think, to understand. It's important to understand at all elements what it takes to buy property in Ghana, what it takes to retain that ownership as well, and how you can make sure that this property is not just yours, but also something that will remain within your family forever as well, right? And so again, I'm very grateful and happy to be here today with you all. I'm not sure if Erwin is here himself, but I do want to at least showcase his development as well, just for you all to see. The barracks, and I'll send a link to his website as well in the chat as well. But he's building something in Adenta, and I know what sort of what he did to make sure that his land is secure, everything is done right as well, and he's looking to build in a sustainable manner as well. So it's good that it's also a person in DC as well. He's there with you all as well in America, and looking to make use of land that was within his family as well, and build something that is a sustainable. It's a legacy for him and his family, and that's really part and parcel of what we're really trying to do here, right? With Cecil, we are really looking to work with all levels, right? Government, banks, real estate developers, and the clients, and to create something that is very powerful in the market, right? Because at the end of the day, although we are all have been in many different parts of the world, I'm in Canada right now as well, and I also do the what Adjoa is saying, living on two continents, right? But at the end of the day, Ghana is home, and the whole point is that we want to make it our lasting home potentially for now, if not now, but certainly in the future as well. So this is the first of four that we'll be doing. This is being recorded, so it will be shared with you all. The next one session will be on financing. We'll then have a third one on real estate options in the market. And then the fourth will be on entrepreneurial opportunities. Potentially, I have someone from Airbnb here to talk to you all about, the market in Ghana in terms of, short-term rentals, etc. as well. So again, really happy to be on here with you all. I'm very excited to share this knowledge with you all. And I'll give, Emmanuel the floor to introduce himself. Emmanuel, you also have access to present. If you can't, I'll put up your presentation as well. No worries. But I'll give you the floor then, Emmanuel, if you don't mind. Unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the audience. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Kweku, and thank you, Ajwa, for having me. Please, if you can, put up the slide for me. Yeah, thanks. So I'm the managing partner of MNO Law Consult and the head of the real estate and infrastructure practice group. And we essentially assist clients by conducting due diligence on land, stamping their documentation, and registering them. If you can go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Good. So this presentation is essentially to show you how to secure your interest in land in Ghana, and also how to prevent others from taking away your land. So I don't know about other jurisdictions, but in Ghana, if you want to secure your interest in land and you want to keep your land, it's a continuous process. You have to be responsible. You have to engage the regulators. You have to pay the requisite statutory fees, ground rents, property rates, etc., in order to show that you are in compliance. Being in compliance is the only way you can secure your interest in land in Ghana. Next slide. So there are 3 stages of a land transaction. And I believe it's the same in the US and probably the UK. We have the pre-closing, closing, and the post-closing stage. I always say that the pre-closing stage, in my opinion, is the most important part. And the pre-closing stage usually requires that you essentially identify the subject land, you conduct due diligence on it, and the closing stage requires that you prepare the documents. The documents are duly signed in accordance with law, and the post-closing stage is where you stamp and you register the documents. All these stages are very important. And in land transactions in Ghana, any small error that you do may end up making the transaction void, which means that the transaction never took place. That's what void means in law. Next slide. So pre-closing stage, what kind of due diligence are we talking about? I think I've listed them on the next slide. So we have a search at the zoning authority, as Ajwa was mentioning. We call it the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority. Normally, people start with a search at the Lands Commission, but ideally, the search will start from the zoning authority, which is the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority. And this is why. So in our law, if you purchase land for a particular purpose, for instance, for residential purposes, and the land has been zoned for any other purpose, that grant is void. So assuming you purchase land in a commercial area and you intend to use it for a residential purpose, that grant that was given to you is void. It doesn't matter where it's coming from, whether it's coming from government, whether it's coming from the chief, whether it's coming from the family, the clan, the transaction will be declared void. So it's imperative that you do a search at the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority to confirm what the zoning status is before you even enter into the transaction. Then you have to do a search at the Lands Commission. This is mandatory. You need to do a search at the Lands Commission to confirm whether the person you are dealing with is a registered proprietor of the land. What I mean is that a registered owner of the land. some lands in Ghana are not registered. In such cases, we will have to register the land before it is transferred. That's what I advise my clients to do. Because in the law, any person who is an allodial owner means the person who first discovered the land, or who is the first person who did a transaction on the land. Any allodial owner ought to have his or her title registered before doing a transfer. So if you do a transfer or you sell land and the land is not registered prior to the sale, it's a criminal offense and you could go to jail for about 10 years or so. So it's a very important thing that you have your documents registered, because if you buy from somebody who hasn't registered their title, it will be impossible for you to register your title. And if you don't register your title, you cannot secure your interest in the land, because registration constitutes notice to the whole world that you are the owner of the property. And please, if I'm going too fast, kindly let me know. I'm sorry. I've done this so many times, so it just sounds like music to my ears. So a customary land secretariat search is also relevant because our law has tried to decentralize the search system. So where we have lands that are being sold by families and clans and chiefs, they have a system which is called the customary land secretariat. And the customary land secretariat is where you can do a search to confirm whether there has been a transaction on the family land, on the clan land, or on the stool land. So in addition to a lands commission search, you ought to do a further search at the customary land secretariat to confirm whether there's any information which contradicts what is at the lands commission. So that's also important. Litigation check, very important indeed, because some cases or many cases, people sell lands and refuse to tell you that, or refuse to disclose that they are in court because they believe they'll win. So, I'll sell the land, and then if they end up losing, it becomes a problem. Then you ask for the documents of the seller to review them. In some cases, I have reviewed documents. I've had clients send me documents to review. I review the documents and I realize that the person they intend to buy the property from doesn't have any years left. But the person is represented, they'll give them 50 years. But they don't have any years left on the document. So how can you transfer what you do not have? And people are buying these properties. So this is very important. For that reason and for many other reasons, it will take us a whole semester to go through all the reasons. So let me just make it quite short. Ground rent search, property rates, and utility bills. These are called liens on property. And if you go and sell property to somebody and you owe ground rent, you should know that that property is encumbered, because whoever you sell it to, the person you owe has a charge on the property. So a charge means that it's encumbered, so they can sell the property to recover their money. So if you go and buy property which is encumbered, then that is the liability you are inheriting. Chances are the person will be free, and now you have to be dealing with this authority that is owed ground rent, property rates, utility bills, etc. That's something you wouldn't want to do. So ensure that these things are paid. What I do is that in my agreement, sale and purchase agreement, I make it a condition precedent that full payment is made when documents are shown to me to confirm that these payments have been made. And if it turns out that these payments have not been made, the balance, we take the money from the funds from the balance and use it to make these payments. And then we pay the rest to the seller. National House of Chiefs search is very important because our law requires that if you are a chief, before you can do a transaction on land, you ought to be registered with the National House of Chiefs. So any chief who has not been registered with the National House of Chiefs and is signing documents as though he has the authority to do so, is problematic, because that document will not be enforceable. Under the law, if you have a document which is not signed in accordance with law, that document cannot be enforced. So it's important to do a search at the National House of Chiefs to confirm whether the chief is a gazetted chief. Traditional council search is important because when they have boundary disputes, that is where they take it to. and these disputes are resolved. So you need to know whether the chief that you are dealing with or the stew has a boundary dispute with another community. So this search is also very important. Collateral registry search just confirms whether the document is the land is encumbered, whether there's a mortgage on the land, or any encumbrance is registered against the land or any other asset. It could be any other asset, but since we are talking about land, we'll limit it to land. Next slide, please.
And Emmanuel, just to even touch on this, what is the real difference when it is you're dealing with land, let's say unserviced, an unserviced plot, right? And you're dealing with perhaps a real estate developer who has a real estate development. Is there any material difference, or is this all still very much required for both? Perhaps you can touch on that as well.
Well, so let me just break it down. Sometimes I like to simplify the thing so that we all understand. So I understand as you mean, do you say a service plot or an unserviced plot?
Yeah, what is the difference when you are dealing with an unserviced plot?
Unserviced plot. So a service plot is a plot that has there are demarcations, there's a road and everything. It's probably walled. So these are called service plots. But an unserviced plot is just bare land, bare vacant land. Perhaps it even has weeds, and all kinds of things on there. Clearly, you cannot even tell whether the land has been used or not. So we call it vacant land. And then the developed land is that what the developers buy and put a wall on and everything. Well, my preference would be for a land which is already developed, where there's activity. And because of my knowledge of the law. So in law, possession is 9/10 of the law. And in fact, if you have a very good lawyer, he can argue that a person who has possession of land has a better title than a person who even has a certificate on the land. Because why would I have a certificate on land and watch somebody develop my property to a point where they start selling it? It means that I've acquiesced to the person's conduct, So possession for me is very material, But another point could also be that if you possess the land which is registered in another person's name, another good lawyer could argue that you did it fraudulently because the registration constitutes notice to the whole world. So if you are deemed to have notice of somebody's interest, why would you go and build on it? It is fraud. So it depends. I mean, if you don't go to court to go and argue these things, it will not come out. But if you go to court and you argue fraud and it can be proven, it will set aside whatever has been done, because fraud vitiates everything. So I would just advise that you do the proper thing. Just do your checks as I have stated in my slides and deal with the person whose interest is registered. That is the safest thing to do. These scenarios I'm playing out are scenarios that come to me not because I was involved in the transaction, but somebody did their transaction and then they get into trouble, and then eventually the lawyer has to come and save the day. So you have to create all kinds of scenarios to help you win the case for your clients. But the ideal thing is to do the proper thing, which is what I have just gone through.
Okay, fair enough. All good. Thank you very much. So please feel free, and as we said, please share your questions in the chat, and we'll get to it at the end. But I just wanted to point that difference as well for the audience. Thank you.
So the people who are authorized to sell land in Ghana are the stew, which is the chiefs or the king, and obviously the land belongs to the community. So the stew has to do it the chief has to do it in conjunction with the principal elders of the stew. If the grant is done without the consent of these principal elders, the grant is void. So it's important to note that. Now, you can also not sell stew land in Ghana without Lands Commission's consent. So this is something that you should note. So all stew lands require Lands Commission's consent before it is finally disposed of. Family land, you deal with the head of family with the consent of the principal members of the family. If you don't do this, the grant will be declared void or can't be declared void. The state, you buy the state land through the Lands Commission. They are the only ones who can dispose of state land on behalf of the government. And then with individuals and corporate entities, you have to follow their regulations strictly.
Emmanuel, I'm
Yes,
sorry
please.
to interrupt you. I just wanted to announce to everyone that we see your questions and we will get to your questions after Emmanuel's presentation. Keep sending them though, so that way we can go by them one by one. Thank you so much. Continue, Emmanuel.
Yes, all right, that's fine. So I was saying that when it comes to individuals and corporate entities, with corporate entities, you have to sell the land in accordance with the corporate entity's constitution. If the land is sold contrary to what the constitution of the corporate entity says, then it means that that particular transaction can be declared void. So please note that. Next slide, please. And the individuals, it's not all individuals who can do transactions on land. You have to be 18 years and above. And if you are below 18, then you have to do that transaction through your guardian or a legal guardian or a parent. For our law has preferences. Let me say, I don't want to use discriminate, but it has preferences. Let me use that word. When it comes to the non-citizen, our law has certain rights that the non-citizen can enjoy. And these rights that the non-citizen can enjoy does not extend to, are limited to only the non-citizen. The citizen also enjoys certain rights, which perhaps, in my opinion, are more than what the non-citizen can get. And the indigene enjoys more rights than the citizen. So that is how I like to categorize them. So with the non-citizen, you cannot have a freehold interest in land in Ghana. You can have a maximum of 50 years. Then you cannot have an automatic right of renewal. So after the 50 years, if you want a renewal, it has to be expressly stated in the document that you want a renewal for a further term of, say, maybe 45 years or 50 years. But you cannot, it doesn't come automatically. Whereas in the case of a citizen, it's automatic. A citizen is entitled to an automatic renewal, and a citizen can have more than 50 years. So you can have an automatic renewal, except where the property is commercial property, or the lease property is for redevelopment. Then in that case, you cannot have an automatic renewal. So if you do your zoning and you find out that this land is a commercial property and it is for redevelopment, then that automatic renewal does not apply to you if you're a citizen. So it's important. That's why the zoning search is important. With the indigene, they are entitled to an automatic renewal where the lessee has developed the land for residential purposes. That's one. A farm, a commercial property, industrial property for the same duration as the original lease. So even in this case, I've even given you the term. So assume you have 90 years. With an indigene, you have another 90 years automatic renewal. So that's how the indigene benefits from the law. So next slide, please. At the closing stage, you are looking at the preparation of legal documents and its execution. And this part is very important, just as important as the first part, which was the pre-closing phase. The closing phase requires that the legal documents are prepared by a lawyer in good standing. This is key. So if you go and get a lawyer who has not paid his dues and is not in good standing, your documents can be declared void. Or if you go and get a lawyer who has been suspended, then that is a problem. So you ought to get a lawyer in good standing to prepare the legal documents, and then you ought to ensure that the documents are executed in accordance with law. This is also very important. Very, very important. Let me see if I can give a scenario. So where you have a document which has been tamprinted, for instance, by a chief and his elders, this document, there must be something called a jurat clause explaining at the bottom of the signature that the chief appended his endorsed the document with his thumbprints after the contents have been explained to him, and then the person who explained the contents must state their name in the document, that the contents are explained to this person in the language. So that language also has to be stated. You know, in Ghana we have several languages, so that language has to be stated. It must be a local language, and the person appear to understand the contents before putting their mark on it. That is the requirement by law. If you miss any of these things, the document can be declared void. Now, if you have a document which has not been signed by the seller, but has been signed by the purchaser, you cannot enforce that document against the seller, and vice versa. So these are some of the technicalities. With execution too, when it comes to stool land, there's a way that stool land has to be executed. Family land too must be executed a certain way. Individual land, same thing. Corporate entities too, they must execute in accordance with their constitution. So, I mean, when you get a lawyer, I'm sure they will show you how these things ought to be done. Next slide. Now, the reason why land transactions are a bit complicated in Ghana is because people sleep on their rights. So somebody buys land and then they allow somebody to stay on the land for maybe 12 years. They don't show any interest in the land. Somebody may buy land, they don't pay ground rent, they don't pay anything. Later, a number of years later, they find out the land has been registered in somebody else's name. You know, all these things create problems for us. The thing about land acquisition in Ghana is that, and I believe it's the same all over the world, in jurisdictions that have developed land jurisprudence, is that you have to be a responsible landowner. You have to pay your ground rent. You have to pay your property rates. You have to get the consent of the bodies or entities whose consents are required. And so even if you are leasing property, you have to seek the consent of the head lessor in order to lease, because without that consent, the head lessor can re-enter. Now, there is an interest in law in our land law called overriding interest. This interest is not registrable, but this interest overrides the interest of somebody who has registered their title in land or title to land. These are easements. So easements are right of way or leases for terms of less than 2 years. These people have an interest which overrides that of a person who has a land certificate. The government's right of compulsory acquisition, even if you have a land certificate, government can decide to use its rights of eminent domain to acquire your property, and your interest will extinguish. So government has an overriding interest. A right of a person in actual occupation. So for instance, a husband and a wife, you see the husband's name on the property. You don't see the wife's name on it, and then you pay for the property without the wife's consent. The wife can sue you and recover the land because she's a person in actual occupation. So you ought to recognize her interest and seek her signature. Adverse possessors in law, these are people who have been on the property for 12 years or more and who have not been challenged. And they are not also there at your instance. These are adverse possessors in law. They, after 12 years, also carve out their own interest in the land, which will rival your interest. Property and utility rates, as I earlier on stated, also have an overriding interest. So if you are going to buy property, you ought to go onto the land to ensure that some of these overriding interests do not exist before you pay for the property. Next slide. So essentially, the key takeaways from this presentation, I hope it has been short, is that you ought to do a thorough due diligence on the land and then buy from authorized persons and obtain the requisite consent. In addition to that, pay the requisite fees, the ground rent, the utility bills, the property rates and all that stuff, and register the land. Now, my note of caution is that you ought to remain vigilant, and in Ghana, approach every transaction as though you were dealing with a dishonest person. It is the documentation that they will show you which should convince you whether this person is an honest person or not. If the person cannot give you any documents, any sound documents, you ought to presume that that person is a dishonest person. That's the only way you can play it safe in Ghana. Then, because of the issues we've had over the years, we have devised sort of a solution based on what has been happening in developed countries. And so we've introduced the escrow arrangement where we require the client to pay the money into the lawyer's escrow accounts, and the due diligence is done, and we ensure that everything checks out before payment is made to the seller. I think that is one way of we think we can sanitize the space, and we try to use a lot of professionals in this. We use building inspectors to do the inspection of the property, because the law requires that you do an inspection of your property from the foundation all the way to up to lintel, but nobody really does that in Ghana. So internally we have built a mechanism where building inspectors go and do the inspection. We have surveyors, we have valuers, we have real estate agents. We have everybody built into this this thing, and I think that should be on the next slide. And I believe that we are done. So essentially, it covers everything. It's like a flow chart.
Excellent, excellent. No, thank you very, very much for the presentation, and I'm sure a lot of people have learned quite a bit.
Yeah, Kweku, sorry. Before Emmanuel, please keep this infographic open for a second while Kweku is going through the questions, please.
Okay.
Very
okay.
good. You are the expert, but we are scrambling here, taking notes like students in school. So you give us some time so we can catch up to your expertise. Okay, go ahead, Kweku. Thank you.
Okay. Your message can only be seen by panelists. Oh, I thought I was sharing it. Oh, okay. Sorry. I realized now my message wasn't going to everyone. My apologies. I realize that now. Apologies to everyone. Yes, feel free to share any questions you have. And I see here in the Q&A, we'll definitely answer all of them. And thank you again to everybody for joining us here today. Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for this presentation as well. And as Adjoa mentioned, it is a lot of information. No one is expecting you to take it all in today. The point of us being on the call is just to show you what we can do for you in the case that you want to, step into this arena and purchase a property, or be involved in real estate in any manner. We just want to show you that there are people there who can assist you through that journey, right? And so, as again I mentioned, my name is Kweku Essien from Seso Global. For anyone who just joined us here now, we're very happy to be joined by Emmanuel Matekole, who is a esteemed real estate lawyer in Ghana, who just went through a very good presentation. We will share this presentation with everybody who's joined us here today. I know some of you want to go back, touch on some points, review some of the aspects as well. Again, we're very glad to be having this session with Ghana Diaspora PAC. We're very happy to be having this here with you all and some of your members and folks as well in the diaspora who have questions, who want to better understand the real estate sector in Ghana. I'm sure a lot of you see that there are things to consider, there are things to better understand. But I think it's very important that we all engage, whether you want to, rent a property, whether you want to buy a property, whether you are just even considering it maybe in 5 years in the long term, or you want to do something now. I think it's important to understand it because, it's very interesting to look at Ghana, and especially when I look at Ghana from 2019 to today, the dynamics have changed quite a bit, right? Ghana was never really a tourist country, at least in my mind, until 2019. And that has changed dramatically. There's a big spotlight on Ghana, which means that there's a lot of interest in real estate in Ghana from non Ghanaians. And I'm sure you all hear it, you all see it, you all feel it, right? And that means that I think it's very important that a lot of Ghanaians, participate in this before perhaps the opportunity gets lost a little bit, right? I don't want to put too much pressure on anyone else in that regard, right? But I think we all see there's a big interest in real estate. You look at places like Ebri, Pram Pram. These are places that land is being bought up in these locations, right? And so I think it's very important to 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 understand that aspect. And again, I also want to point out that our other partner here is the Barracks Ghana, right, which is brought to you by Diaspora Builders. The Barracks is located in a secure and modern gated apartment court in the heart of East Legon at American House Junction off Ajingano Road. It's run by a Ghanaian family, a member of GH PAC, Erwin, and it's a convenient living space for Ghanaians and those of the diaspora, right? And so for those interested, we'll share a link. I'll share a link in there as well. Apologies, I thought it was going to everybody, but I'll share the various links as well. And feel free to reach out to him or to Cecil as well if you're interested in purchasing there. And also with us at Cecil, we are a platform, like Zillow. I like to call ourselves the Zillow of Africa, operating in Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia, and soon to be operating really across the continent as well. And our main goal here is to assist you through the whole property journey as well, right? So that's one of the reasons why we're happy to 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 uh, um to have Emmanuel here. So I'll start with some of the questions here, and some of these I'll answer, and of course some of these Emmanuel can answer as well on his side. And so the first question here from Kweku Bentil, again, thank you very much, Kweku Bentil, for joining us here today. How are properties in Ghana assessed? So we know why the price point is around 114 to 120,000 dollars. Well, this is a good question. I'll say that there aren't well-established valuation tools in Ghana as yet. We provide some semblance of that. We have valuers as well that we work with as well to assess price value. I will say some of the prices of the property are arbitrary. The developer himself is setting the price of these, but some of them are also based on demand within a particular locale or location, right? And so, of course, in places like cantonments, where an acre is can be about $4 million, right? You'll obviously see that the price of a townhouse or the price of a studio is probably a bit higher there, right? But in places like let's say places closer to, let's say, a Brie, and in that area, you might find, or a Yarefa, let me use that location in particular, you might find, a two-bed townhouse that will cost you about 150,000 or so, right? And so it is determinant, I'll say sometimes based on how far you are from the airport, the airport being sometimes a determining factor. Land around the airport is the highest in Ghana, right? So anything around the airport residential area, you will find an acre there, roughly $3 to $4 million. And then cantonments is a bit similar as well to that. Ridge is a little similar to that as well. And then when you get to East Legon, you can find acres of land similar to that price point. But as you move a little bit away from that to Mimpiasem, Adenta, the land prices do go down quite a bit. And so you can work with a valuer. There are valuers in the market that we work with, who can give you, reasonings for the various pricing. And that's typically just based on the price points within that locale. But I will say that, yes, some developers do price things a bit arbitrary. And it's really based on the demand that they're getting, which I'll say in certain locations and with certain developers, the demand is quite high with them, right? There are certain developers like Clifton, and sometimes DevTrack, depending on the locations, which gain a lot of interest as well, right? And so that just to give you that sense. Yes, Kwame, some thank you very much for your question. And yes, you are right. We will share the slides with you all for sure. I know these are very precious information that Emmanuel has shared with you all here, and very important information as well. And so we'll share that with you as well. And then Kwame, your other question, what do you mean there may be no years left on land that is being sold to you? I think that's a question to you, Emmanuel. I'm not sure if you remember when you mentioned that, but the question is, what do you mean?
Let me explain it to him.
Sure.
So, with land transactions, you always have somebody called the allodial owner of the land. In the UK, the Crown is the allodial owner of UK lands. In Ghana, the allodial owners could be a chief, it could be a stool, let me just say a stool, that's a community with a king. It could be a family, it could be a clan, it could be an individual. Now, this allodial owner is somebody who owns the land forever. So this allodial owner will never cease to be an owner of the property. But out of this allodial interest, you can carve out different interests, which are lesser than the allodial interest. One of them is called a leasehold interest. Now, if an allodial owner gives a leasehold for 90 years to, let's say, an indigene, then that means for the 90-year period, the allodial owner has given away the land and it will come back to that allodial owner after 90 years. This indigene can choose to do whatever he wants to do for that 90 years. This indigene chooses to sell this allodial interest to a Ghanaian for, say, so the individual, so the indigene sells it to a Ghanaian for say 50 years. And then this Ghanaian transacts with a foreigner and purpose to give this foreigner 50 years. And meanwhile, maybe 10 years may have gone off the 50 years that was given to him. I hope you understand what I'm saying. You cannot give what you do not have. So assuming that somebody has been given 50 years and the person that has been given 50 years is trying to transact with somebody else and the person gives that other person 50 years. But meanwhile, the 50 years, some of it has been used up. What it means is that that person cannot give 50 years.
Yeah, I think, and that's very clear, right? So
that's the point I'm making.
Yeah, so for example, buying from a real estate developer who has a leasehold on the land, but only has maybe 10 years, but is trying to sell you a property for 50 years. So it's very important.
And it happens. It happens sometimes. Even some people don't even have any years left at all.
Yeah. So that's why it's very, very important to work with a lawyer, right? I know, perhaps in the past people have, some people just don't like working with lawyers. I'm sure, Emmanuel, you understand that, right?
I understand.
Yeah. They prefer to do it themselves. They believe that they can navigate it themselves. Maybe some of you can, right? But
no, I mean, I tell my clients the truth that it's impossible for you to get it right if you don't use a lawyer. It's impossible. It's impossible.
That is true. That is true. It is much better. It is much safer. It's much more efficient for your life to work with a lawyer, a reputable lawyer, right? Whether it is Emmanuel or someone else, please work with a reputable a lawyer to assess the land, right? And make sure that you are being given the proper documentation and that the documentation is stating exactly what this individual is telling you or corporate is telling you, right? It's just better to live that way than to cut corners and then have difficulties in the future. An anonymous attendee. I don't know why you don't want to give us your name. Can foreigners own land in Ghana, and what restrictions apply to them? Please,
yes,
Emmanuel.
I think
Emmanuel, you must realize this is a hot question.
No, but we answered
take your time with this one.
We can even go back to the the slides where I have the indigene, the Ghanaian, and the non-citizen. Yeah,
Alright.
so all the
Can you see it? I think
answers are yes. So first of all, with a non-citizen, which is a foreigner, you cannot have a freehold interest in land. That's the first thing. Then, if you had a freehold interest after 1969, the freehold interest was converted to a leasehold interest for 50 years. So most foreigners who had freehold interest before 1969, I think most of them, their leases expired, I think, in 2019 or so, if my math is correct. Then, as a foreigner, you can only have a 50-year interest in land at a time. So it doesn't mean that you cannot have, you cannot be on the land for more than 50 years. But what it means is that after the 50 years, you have to negotiate for a renewal for another 50 years. So that's one thing.
Yeah, and perhaps, I think that is usually the contentious portion of things. To be honest, I've done this many times, and that is the number one question that, more than anything, Americans ask me, right? Especially obviously foreigners from the States ask me, because they are used to full ownership of the land. Although some will say, that you still have to pay rent, you still have to pay tax to the government. But Ghana utilizes the same legal system that the United Kingdom uses, right? And so that this is especially something that I think folks
Inherited.
we inherited that same.
But this one can be addressed with this
sure.
one. In the document that's created a 50-year lease, you can incorporate in that document that you have a right of renewal after the 50 years on the same terms and conditions.
Sure.
So what it means is that you have contracted into the future.
Got it. And Ajua, sorry, you have your hand up.
Yes, I'm saying for me, I'm here to represent the slow people.
No, wait.
Yeah, no, I'm just owning it. So
Yeah.
please, can you explain again what is indigene? What is the difference between indigene and citizen?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I should have done that. And it's a very good question. It's a very good question. So I would like to use myself as an example. So I'm a Ga Dangbe. And assuming I'm from Osu, it means that I'm an indigene of Osu. All right. Now, Kweku, where are you from?
From Cape Coast.
Good. So Kweku is from Cape Coast. He's a Fanti. Now, if Kweku comes to Osu to come and buy land, he'll be regarded as a citizen, not an indigene. But if I go to Osu to go and buy land, I'll be seen as an indigene.
Okay, so then what about me? I'm diasporan.
So you fall under non-citizen.
No, but I'm a dual citizen.
She's Ghanaian.
She's Ghanaian. Okay, yeah. So it depends on where you are from in Ghana and the locality you intend to buy the land from.
Okay, so then for there are Ghanaian diasporans and then there are non-Ghanaian diasporans, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yes,
With
who
the
are
Ghanaian
now dual citizens.
Yes, with the Ghanaian diaspora, I think that it's easier if you can demonstrate that you are from that area. Yes, and that's the way you demonstrate.
So then we can bring maybe the passport or the birth certificate of our parents or ancestors from there that says that they were born there, right?
Well, yes.
How
I
else
mean,
can we show?
for me, it's not even that complicated. What you are, they only use your name. Just make sure that you
That's my name. They can tell I'm. I'm married. You see my name, Chemeting. I'm married. It says you would think I'm Ashanti. I'm Ashanti. I'm not Ashanti. I'm very much Fantini, but I'm also Manfe, right? My father is Manfe. So how can they look at me?
So because your father is from Manfi, you go and if you speak to them and you mention your father's name and your grandfather's name, they will know where you are from.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Fair. And I think, for that really, so for a citizen of Ghana, right, you do get automatic renewal unless there is a clause within the agreement, right?
And yes, and note that a citizen and indigene, an indigene is also a citizen, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So an indigene, just to be clear, is that's where your family is from,
Where
right?
you are from,
Yeah.
because it just goes back. I just didn't want to do a lecture, but sometimes it makes it easier. You see, we have customary law in Ghana, and our customary law didn't require that you pay money to buy land. Our customary law made anybody who could appropriate a portion of their land into their possession an owner of that land. The only thing you had to do was you had to atone tenancy to the chief. So as an indigene, you are entitled to some of the land as of right. By virtue of your birth, where you were born, you are entitled to some of that land. So that is why we still have some of these provisions in there, so that the indigenes do not lose, they don't lose their inheritance.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's also very important to note as well that Ghana has gone through maybe 3 different phases, right? Pre-colonial, and so there are laws there that are pre-colonial. Obviously, our colonial times, which is why we utilize even the leasehold system, etc., right? And also then post-colonial, which came after, right? And so these things are all part of our history, and obviously affect the way in which we manage land. But in a lot of ways, the way the laws are created, it's created in a way to protect citizens of Ghana and what he's mentioned, indigenes of Ghana, right?
And also non-citizens are also protected. Everybody's
No, sorry. I mean, everybody's protected. I meant in a way to ensure that the indigenes have still sort of hold.
They are recognized.
They are recognized.
Yeah.
Exactly. I like what you said. They have a preference. There's a preference.
Yeah, that's why I use preference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. So that's really part of it, right? And so the thing is that there are many citizens now of Ghana that are not perhaps indigenes, right? As well, right? And so I guess that's why that difference is being made, right? But at the end of the day, if you are a citizen, you do have automatic renewal, right? And so that's also very, very important to understand, unless it's stated with.
Before I forget, this thing I'm telling you about indigent citizen and stuff, it is if you have a lawyer, that is the case that the lawyer can make for you. Do you understand? Your seller is not going to know about all this stuff I'm telling you. It's your lawyer who is going to make a case for you that, look, because of your status by law, you are entitled to an automatic renewal.
Yeah, 100%. And so again, to that point, why I think you need a lawyer within any transaction, right? Anywhere in the world, really, but I would say in Ghana as well. And so I'll just go through the questions again. I see that there are people raising their hand. Feel free to please just put your questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to it. Right. So I'm just going through the questions as well. Again, anonymous again, what legal actions can a buyer take if they realize the land they purchase is already owned by someone else?
So, like there are so many things you can do, but I don't think you should even get to that point where you buy land that is owned by someone else. You have to do a search first. If the search shows that the land belongs to somebody else, you don't buy it in the first place. Because if you buy land which is owned by somebody else and the person has registered their title and you go to courts, the principle is simple. He who goes to equity must go with clean hands. Already you have tainted your hands, so it will be very difficult. I would advise that you sue the person who sold the land to you, rather than go after the person who has registered their title, because you have a better chance of success against the person who sold the land to you than the person who has registered their title. But if the person has not registered his or her title, then maybe you have if you have a good lawyer, then maybe you can succeed. But in that case too, you know, it is not equitable. It will not be fair. So that person will also fight back, and you go on appeal, and then you go to the Supreme Court. And for 15, 20 years, you'll be in court because the person will also not allow it, knowing that they also own the land. So it's just easier if you do the right thing.
Yeah, 100%. I think really the way to avoid this is probably best than to even put yourself in that situation.
Exactly.
You can always go to court, you can always sue, but to be honest with you, to be in the court can take a while. Can take a while to get decisions done.
Even
And
lawyers don't like going to court.
exactly.
Hey, what lawyer doesn't like Emmanuel? But you know, what you've said, I don't think you've realized how powerful this information is if you're a Ghanaian diasporan, because sometimes we don't know the rights, we don't know the Ghana law, because we don't live there, we don't know Ghana law. So to be able to understand, like you've said, that you won't get this kind of information from the realtor per se, because they may not know it, but you'll get it from a lawyer, and that, especially, a lot of us are mutts, for lack of better term, mutts. We're mixed with all kind of this tribal, this and that. So imagine what kind of land you can access. I know I sound like everything, but imagine that you're going to buy some land here, and then you don't even realize that because of your great grandfather, your great grandmother, or your this thing, your cousins who are even down the street asking you to come bring them some shoes and some extra things for Christmas, that you actually have reason and cause to say that maybe you have extra rights. So thank you so much, Emmanuel, for that revelation.
Excellent. No, I love to hear it. And yeah, we're all here to learn. And you're right. Sometimes a realtor doesn't want to give you, may not know, but sometimes they may not even want to give you the full story, right? As well, right? And at the end of the day, let's just get the full story. I would prefer, and I think everybody would prefer that. Even if, hey man, this is your dream home, this is your dream land. If there's issues on the land, just avoid it. Just don't even bother with it, right? There are credible places that you can buy at, or just don't buy, right? End of the day, I think it's better that way than anything else. But I think what we are really saying here is that there are many different opportunities to buy, whether it's from a development, whether it's land plots, etc. But just do your due diligence. And even for me, there's no need to trust me and my site. We are doing our best. We're making sure we are providing verified units, but it's better to always get a lawyer, right, to do the due diligence, right? And whether it's someone we bring in or you get your own lawyer, just get a good lawyer to do it efficiently and properly for you, right? They know the law better than anyone else. And even though this here will be sent to you also, that you're all armed with the information, you can ask the right questions, you can better understand it. It still doesn't matter. We would still recommend that you still get a lawyer, even if you have this deck with you, right? Uh, um, so we have touched on this, but I don't know if you want to touch on it a little bit. The difference between leasehold and freehold, just a little bit. You can touch on it.
Yes. So there are different interests that exist on land. So for instance, let's assume that wherever you are right now, where you are is a piece of land. In Ghana, about 5 interests exist on that land you are on right now, wherever you are. We have the allodial interest. That's the person who owns the land forever. Then we have the customary law freehold interest, which is the person who basically also owns it forever, but that person's right is subject to the allodial owner's rights. Then we have the common law freehold. That is the person who acquired it under the common law, which is the UK inherited law. We have the usufructory interest. That is, the usufructory interest is the person who owns it forever because they are an indigent of a community and they have managed to take a portion of the land and made it theirs. They have a usufructory interest. And then we have a leasehold interest, which is what we are talking about. It's lease for it's an interest for a definite term. It could be 50 years, it could be 70 years, it could be 90 years, it could be 99 years, but it's for a definite term. And then we have an interest called customary tenancy. So all these interests exist on one piece of land. All of them. On the land that you are on right now, if it is in Ghana, all these interests exist on this one piece of land. So it's imperative that even when I'm doing your documentation, I identify the various interests on the land.
Yeah, no, and good point. And again, this is again due to the history of Ghana, right? More than anything else. And it's important to note that most land on offer today is leasehold, right? Most of the land that is freehold is owned by the stool. Uh, um, is owned by the stool, or is owned by the government, or as you said, an individual or corporation, right? These are typically people who have freehold ownership, and it's very hard these days to find any type of freehold ownership. It is typically leasehold, leasehold land that we have on offer, right? And not to be scared of it at all. This is the same type of similar legal system that is utilized in the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom as well, the king owns the land and you lease it from him. So that's the same similar system that they brought to Ghana. It does, and it works according to the law. And you own that land. I know leasehold, the term doesn't feel as though you own it, but you do own that land. You have interest in that land to do as you wish, if you purchase it legally. And you just have to make sure that either you have in there the lease renewal clause, which is very, very important for non-citizens. And of course, for citizens, it is automatic if the freehold ownership doesn't indicate that, right? That they want a lease renewal fee. And I will say a lot of the time, the lease renewal fees are, really symbolic. At times, maybe it's not, but I think very good that you get a lawyer that puts in there a mechanism for pricing for when that freehold and when that leasehold ends, so that you can pay the requisite amount.
So, yeah,
after that
so
time.
so even if I may add that in my experience, I have not seen too many cases where people's leases have expired on lands that they built on, and the owners have asked them to vacate because they have not sought a renewal. I've not come across any case like that. And but because we are lawyers, I'm a lawyer, so I cannot ignore that. I'm just saying that practically and in reality, I've not come across a scenario where somebody is being asked to, vacate the property because their lease has expired and there's no renewal. Most times they are just on there. They don't even pay ground rent. They don't do anything. And that's why when we started, I advised that you pay ground rent, you atone tenancy, you do all these things, because a time may come when Ghanaians will become so sophisticated and they'll realize that, look, they could make so much money from these things. And then when that time comes, because you didn't comply, you fall victim to some of these things. So practically, I have not come across any case where somebody is being moved from their home for 50 years because they have not sought a renewal.
Yeah. I draw your hand is up.
Yes, we have many questions to get through, gentlemen. I just want to say to folks who keep raising their hands that we see your questions in the Q&A. So I know you cannot be able to stick around, but try to stick around. We're going to get to your questions. And then also, is there a database somewhere, a public database that tells you what land is leasehold versus freehold?
No.
No, so the government, and unfortunately, our friend for the government is not here today to maybe speak on the efforts of the government, right? But and I think one of the questions here is around that if there isn't one platform for all the lands information, to check 3 different platforms for land seems a bit much. Are there efforts to centralize it? I'll say that there are efforts, right? And of course, this new government has mentioned that it's something that they'll look at. Typically, there are 3 different silos of information. As I mentioned, in Ghana, where we had the pre-colonial, we had the colonial, and then we have the post-colonial. And so, in a way, that's one of the reasons why there are 3 silos of information. And that when you do those checks, you have to make sure that they all match, right? And if they don't, I would advise not even bothering to purchase that, or maybe working with a very reputable lawyer to to be able to aggregate all that information and make sure that you're doing things within the law, right? And that potentially, and I think one of the things that the diaspora can do, and GHPAC perhaps we can work with, this to advocate on some of these things, right? And so there is I know a new diaspora office in Ghana. I'm sure GHPAC is either connected or already going to or going to connect with them. And it's very important that I think we make some of these things heard so that government prioritizes them as well, right? And as I mentioned, interest in Ghanaian land is at an all-time high. And so I'm sure the government is seeing this already themselves. And there have been efforts to digitize aspects of the process, and I'm sure maybe Emmanuel can even speak to some of that, right? But it can always be done better, right? And CESO is also looking to do some of this work as well if we can, and if the government is willing as well, right? So I don't know if Emmanuel, if you want to touch on that as well.
Yeah, I think Kweku, let's try and go through the questions quickly because there are a lot of questions that, so I think you've addressed this one.
Okay,
So
okay, let's move.
yes, let's quickly.
There was a question about dual citizen, but I think we answered that, right? Perhaps we can move on, or what
Yeah.
about a citizen for land? I think as long as you are Ghanaian, right? You're a citizen, right? Right, Emmanuel, right?
That is correct. If you're a Ghanaian, you're a citizen.
Okay, Terry Opong, this is great. I definitely make sure clients get the option for international level home inspections for homes, both completed and uncompleted. It's best practice. We agree, Terry. Can you search property titles online, or do you need to go to the lands department in person? I think we answered that as well. You would have to work with a lawyer to do that due diligence work. Hi, will this webinar be? Yes, it will, Anonymous. We will send it out to all registrants. We'll send a recording to all registrants alongside the deck. Are there HOAs for properties in Ghana? Yes, there are. For condominium style units, there are HOAs there, right? And so please work with us to find developments that offer this. But really today, all developers really in any gated community or condominium style unit have HOAs. What are the credit facilities available to buyers, and how does your organization help with this? Yeah, so the next session we'll have a bank on there. We'll have a mortgage bank on there to help you understand how to attain a mortgage. I will say that most banks, aside one bank, offers mortgages to non-Ghanaians. Most only offer it to Ghanaians. So as long as you are a Ghanaian, do not worry about if you are living in the diaspora or not. As long as you are a Ghanaian, your parent is a Ghanaian, or your grandparent is a Ghanaian, you can get a mortgage in Ghana. But for foreigners, I will say that there's only one bank that offers that opportunity. But most developers offer payment plans to clients. Typically, the payment plans are on average 3-year payment plans, which is sometimes good for some people, but unfortunately, of course, not always for everybody else. And also it depends on the price point, of course. When using lawyer services, what is the typical cost structure? Is it flat fee or something else? Emmanuel, perhaps you can answer that.
Well, I mean, I think I'm a bit more flexible. My fee is based on the scope of work. So if you send me the documents, I'll be able to ascertain the scope of work, and based on that, we can agree on a fee. And I believe my fees are reasonable.
Okay, perfect. What happens if a foreigner buys a land and in the space of that 50 years, he or she becomes a citizen by naturalization? What does that 50 years still apply?
So what it would mean, what I would suggest is that if in the course of the 50 years you become a citizen, I would advise that you do a surrender. So a surrender means that whoever sold the land to you, if they have a lot more than 50 years that they can give, you surrender your 50 years to them in return for a longer lease.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I am a citizen who has bought land from a family for redevelopment. My lease is 90 or 99 years, can't remember, with a clause to renew for another 99 years. I realize you mentioned land purchase for redevelopment doesn't get auto-renewed. My question, does this make my option to renew not viable? Please clarify.
No, so what I'm saying is that I'm not saying generally, I'm saying that for a citizen or a non-citizen, if your land is for redevelopment, there is no right of automatic renewal. Now, this is the law, and you ought to understand that everybody is subject to the law. So you might be entering into agreements with people. You have Lands Commission, confirming those documents by registering them and everything. But if you end up in court and somebody should spot it, like a lawyer like me should spot that this land is for redevelopment, the name I'm seeing on there, I don't get the sense that this person is an indigent, this person doesn't qualify. I can have that transaction, set aside because it is invalid. Do you understand? That's why I suggest that you use a lawyer, because you just need to do everything in accordance with the law, so that in the event that an issue should arise, you are not found wanting.
Great. So Abena McAllister, just to clarify, if I'm looking to buy land or a house and my family is from the Eastern region, I would have more rights buying in the Eastern region than if I purchase land in Achimota.
So the point I'm making is that this is the law. So not everybody knows the law. Let me just put it this way. Even some lawyers may not know what I'm telling you right now, but it's in the law. It is in writing. I can show you the provision and everything. So I'm saying that, assuming that you buy property and for some reason you want more rights, because I'm a lawyer and I know what the law says, I can advocate that because of this provision, you should be able to get A, B, C, D. That is what I mean.
Got it.
Yeah, so it is in the law. So you would have to activate it. It doesn't come automatically. It's not like if you go somewhere, the person knows that this is what the law says, so they'll give it to you automatically. You would have to argue for it and make a case for it and demonstrate to the people that you qualify.
Okay. Thank you very much. Andrea Boa, what can we do if our parents have land and properties, but we, the children, have not established roots in Ghana? What can we start doing now if we want to one day move back, but don't want to wait until then to manage and make sure the properties are safe?
Do they have a will? Your parents must put in place a will, and basically state if they want to give those properties to you, so that if you come to Ghana and you want to use those properties for something, you have a right to do so because of the will, or you can even do a deed of gift to you.
Got it. Chanel Caton. So if I'm engaged to a Ghanaian man and would move to Ghana but also invest, what would be my right, knowing that I've also invested money? Emmanuel, did you hear me?
So if I'm engaged to a Ghanaian man and would move to Ghana but also invest, what would be my right? So basically, there's no right when it comes to engagement. In Ghana, we have marriage. I don't know because in Ghana we don't recognize engagement. We have customary marriage and we have a marriage ordinance. What you guys call engagement, we call it customary marriage. So if is the kind of engagement you guys do in the developed world, we don't recognize that as marriage. So if you're not married to the man, then you are not really entitled to anything that a married person is entitled to, if or can benefit from a citizen, if that is what the question is asking.
Emmanuel, maybe she's talking about the traditional marriage, that what we now has been confused by everyone calling it a traditional engagement. If you've gone through a customary marriage,
yeah,
right? Are you saying that you still need that?
No. So if you've gone through a customary Ghanaian marriage, then that is a proper marriage. And that proper marriage entitles you to everything that a married person is entitled to in Ghana. So for instance, if you own a house with a man, then it means that the house is owned jointly by you guys. Even if you didn't invest any money, because you are married to the person, you are deemed to be a beneficial owner in that property, just like the man.
What proof do they need to have of their customary marriage?
So the witnesses, basically witnesses.
You
Got
just
it.
made a lot
don't
of
need
people
any, you don't
happy.
need
I don't know you are this, you just made a lot of women happy. Go ahead.
yeah, you don't need a marriage certificate. All you need because our customary marriage doesn't know writing. I mean, customary law doesn't know writing. So we work with families. Customary marriage is a marriage between a union between two families. So once you can show that your family came and the other person's family came and there were exchange of drinks and you were recognized as a wife, you are a customary wife. And it's
Yeah,
as
you
good
just,
as a marriage ordinance marriage.
yeah, you just need lots of pictures and videos from the wedding.
Good
That's all.
pictures and videos and stuff of the customary marriage. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Yeah, Chanel, we will send the deck to you. I'll also share the recording to everybody that's registered. So no problem there. Dale, hey, how are you, Dale? How are you? Dale says, has the lawyer ever seen a situation where there is no indenture or declaration, but the stool is claiming they can transact purchases with a letter of consent?
Yeah. So the lawyer has seen almost every situation, and I can tell you that if I were you, I'll run away from the transaction.
Okay. Well, Dale, I'm guessing this is a real life situation, Dale. Please, the lawyers advise you to run away. Run away. MOU, how are you? How is the value of improvements on the land, example, a house, factored into the lease renewal price, if any? Is it factored
Yes,
in?
it's factored in. Yes, it's factored in. I mean, they're looking to make money, so yes, they'll factor it in.
Yeah, and I'll say again with the lease renewal, as Emmanuel has mentioned, it is sometimes symbolic. You're right. A lot of the time, people don't even bother with it, but it is something in the law, and so it's something to think of and think ahead of, especially for those that want to obviously ensure that the land is theirs and in their family. I will say I'll use an example of even land that we a property that we have as well, in Central Accra, which we've had in our family for really a long time, to be honest with you. And the lease renewal on that was about 10,000 cities, right? So it's roughly about $600 or so US, right? And so it wasn't a crazy amount, and it was just something again that was done to ensure everything is done properly. And so it can be that, it can be any price really, as well. Perhaps the law needs to make it more clear in the future. But as I said, it's something that is usually symbolic, usually not asked for, but it can be. And so it's important that that you ensure that you have a proper lawyer that indicates that within the documentation. Dale, again, when a declaration has a name who is now deceased, although the family knows who is up next for authority, what is the paper trail that a foreigner would be satisfied? A letter of administration? Question mark.
There are too many loopholes in this. I don't understand the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very specific, I'll say. Perhaps Dale, I would say I'll connect you to Emmanuel. Perhaps he can give you some maybe you can make it more clear there. But again, maybe just to ask the question again, Emmanuel, if it's better. But he says when a declaration, I guess a declaration document has a name on it, but the name of the person on it is dead, is deceased, and the family understands who is up next to be on that declaration document. What is the paper trail that a foreigner could be satisfied with? Right, I guess is the question. I don't know if that helps at all. If not, we can move forward.
Yeah, because I don't know in terms of what? Is it in terms of land acquisition? Do you understand? And what does the authority say? What does the declaration say? What authority? I mean, with lawyers, we can't speculate. It's difficult to speculate because this is real life. And if you say the wrong thing, so I don't want to speculate.
Sure. Okay, no
Yeah.
problem.
Maybe Emmanuel will share his contact information at the conclusion of this deal. I suggest you reach out to him. He said he's flexible in his pricing for consultations and things. So, Dale, I suggest it'll be probably worth it, right? To just get a straight answer for you.
Yeah, I can connect you directly, Dale. My good buddy Dale. Dale is actually a good friend of mine. Dale lived in New York for a long time with his wife, and actually found us through a YouTube video. And I like Dale's story because Dale said he didn't really want to live in Ghana, but his wife, really did. And Dale is not Ghanaian in any way. He's American, and his wife has Caribbean roots. And they decided to come to Ghana for 1 week. And he said he went from 0% to 95%. 0% meaning he didn't want to live in Ghana to 95%. He decided he needs to live in Ghana. And so now they've been in Ghana for, I think, 2 years now, actually. For funny enough, so
Yeah, so I mean, Dale, with the declaration, it even has to meet certain legal requirements. And also, is it describing the land? What is the declaration about? Is it a declaration in respect of title? And if it is, I mean, who is this next of authority person? Is there a document that has appointed it? So there are so many questions that are not that are unanswered in this, and I would want us to have a chat about it first before I can advise.
Sure. Another question from Anonymous. What is the average cost of doing a search on land?
So I think about 1,000 cedis. If you want an expedited one, about 1,000 cedis. I don't know how much does that translate in if you convert it in dollars, how much is that now?
That'll be about $60 or something like that.
$60, yeah. So
I think that's for a plot, right? Or so, right?
Yeah, for a plot, yeah. And then if you graduate when you
the land of size, the size of the land, sorry, the cost, but on average, it can cost
average, yes. It could be about 1,000, yeah.
Another question is, what are the most in-demand property types? Well, that's an interesting question. I think it obviously depends on the person. On our platform, I will say that a lot of the time it is condominium style units and land, right? So typically land in Ebri is very, very popular. We sell some land there that it costs about $5,000 to $7,000 per plot. Those are very, very popular. And then also condominium units, typically studio units that typically range from $70,000 to $80,000, in cantonments, Laborni, airport area. I'll say those are probably the two most, popular types of properties being bought, right? And it's typically people who want Airbnb style units, right? Where they can come and stay there when they're not there, or it's managed by a property management company. And we work with lots of property management companies as well. And even the developers themselves typically also have their own property management companies. And then also land for those who maybe want to buy the land and then, build it out in the future as well, right? So those are the two most popular types of properties that are being bought, right? But of course, I've seen many different types, right? In Oyarifa, especially, we find townhouses or even some standalone homes for $150,000 to $200,000, 2 to 3 beds are very, very popular as well, right? And so it kind of depends on who it is, who's buying. But yeah, just to give you those examples. What services do you offer for property management? Okay, that's a good question. Well, so it feeds into what we were talking about. And in fact, I like that Dale is on here. Perhaps we'll have Dale on the fourth panels because Dale actually manages has a property management company himself. He manages units at Eden Heights, which is in Weija, near the very big mall there in Weija. It's very close to that area. And manages typically condominiums.
You have to say West Hills. That's what diasporans understand.
West Hills. West Hills. Yes. Adrian, thank you for correcting me. Thank you. No, you're exactly right. West Hills Mall is very close to West Hills Mall. It's a development called Eden Heights. A very large development there. And perhaps I'll send even some links to that. So Dale offers that service, but there are other people as well. That there's Accra Luxury Apartments. They also manage units in and around the cantonments airport area as well, right? So there are people that we can connect you with to offer that service as well. And I think you review them, of course, and see which one works best for you. But we'll also hopefully have the gentleman from Airbnb join a session with us, the last session we'll have. you will then see as well that in Ghana in particular, there has been a major jump in the number of bookings in Ghana, right? And that we were told by Airbnb actually that Ghana is the fastest growing country on their platform. I'm not saying it's the number one country on their platform, but fastest growing on their platform, right? And so that kind of tells you, where it's at, right? With Ghana today, right? And the interest in Ghana today, which I'm sure you all see, in your daily lives in the States. Um, so just to answer that, are African Americans with Ghanaian citizenship considered citizens? Yes, yes, they are, right? By Emmanuel, you can confirm, but yes, you are
That
a
is
citizen.
correct. That is correct. That is correct.
Yes. Um, what is the average cost to have a lawyer oversee the land transaction? Hello, Ray. How are you? I don't know if you can answer that here, or perhaps it's obviously.
Yeah, I mean, you can contact me, but it's reasonable. It's reasonable.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
I've been on
well,
the
I want to just say, Ray runs a platform, Ghana Diaspora Property Rent and Buy Connect. I think it has like over 200 people on it. So you
yeah.
might want to, you know, uh, you provide your contact information so that perhaps he can post on it. If you can handle all those clients, Emmanuel. But they're
Zero,
a hot topic
zero.
right now on their platform. They're listening and they're going, hey, 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 hey. So you might want to do that. And also, I just want to share that GH will is compiling a list of our verified, property managers and real estate lawyers and realtors, people that we will vouch for. So if you've joined GH if you haven't, please do so. www.ghanadiasporapac.org. Put in your join, and then we'll be able to share that list with you.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And yes, Ray, I'll reach out to you. Ray's a good buddy of mine as well, and I know he's asking that question for a reason. Hello, Abena. What if your father has a will only naming the children for a large property, but the children are abroad and the father has a girlfriend living at the property with him? Will the girlfriend have rights to the property upon the father's departure?
No, no, unless there's a document which shows that your father has given the property to the girlfriend.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Uh, hello, Eric Akwe. What are the credit facilities available to buyers? Yes, I think I've answered this question. And again, our next session will be exactly on this. So for those on here, please make sure you join that session. Ask others also to join that question. I know this is a big, big, part of it all. We decided that the next session has to be on financing, right? People just want to understand this more than anything. How can I get a credit facility to buy property, right? Because no one wants to pay outright in cash. That's not what a lot of diasporans are used to, and we want to bring that type of service to the diasporans, right? And a lot of banks are looking to be a part of this as well. So we work with several banks: EcoBank, APSA, Fidelity Bank, FNB, Republic Bank. All of these banks are willing to offer you mortgages, and so we'll have one of these banks on our next session to give you an overview of at least one bank's option. But CESO can assist you through the process as well of applying for the mortgage, and also then share your application with various banks as well, so you can get the best offer. So thank you. Does a trust in Ghana need to be established? Do you all work with lawyers in the United States to create trusts that are both legal and enforceable? This is a question from Andrew Yabua.
Yeah, so I don't think that we can create a trust that is enforceable in both jurisdiction because the laws applicable are different. I have some US clients though who have talked about the concept of a living trust, if that is what you are talking about. And I did my research, and a living trust is not something that you can do in Ghana. So it's not possible to have a living trust in Ghana. In any case, the reason why I believe that is put in place is for tax reasons. But in Ghana, you can find other ways of reducing your tax liability other than using a living trust. So that can be discussed at a later date.
Thank you. Stephanie, what recourse does one have if a family member illegally sells family land if they are in possession of the documents?
So if you're a family member and you are selling family land and you are in possession of documents, now the question is one, are you like a trustee? So a trustee is somebody whose name is on the documents, but the person is holding it in trust for the family. If you're a trustee, then that puts you in a fiduciary relationship. So it means that you have to render accounts. You can be sued to render accounts to the family and to hand over the documents. However, if you're not a trustee and you are merely somebody who is selling family land, then that even makes it worse, because then it means that you are basically somebody who doesn't have any role to play in the sale of land. And I mean, first of all, I'll start with the police, and then you can sue the person in court, and also you can ask the person to render account. So same principles apply.
Got it. I think we've answered this question around the average cost. And a question around how do you find a specialist lawyer that deals with wills? I think
So in Ghana, it's property lawyers, property lawyers. So that is what I do. I mean, we are property lawyers are those who deal with wills. So we're talking about movable and immovable property.
okay, got it. Ivan asked, how long does it take for a site plan to be produced or ready, considering the current changes in land registration procedures?
About a month. About a month. You can get a backward site plan about a month or a month and a half.
Got it. Another question: what specialists do soil tests, can advise on water logging, etc., and when should you do them when buying land?
So these things are even done prior to getting a building permit. So they have all these tests that are done. They do the environmental permit, the geo something. I mean, that's the soil testing. And then there's the traffic impact assessments, and all these tests are done prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Got it. Thank you. My husband is not Ghanaian like me. How can he be a citizen?
So there are a whole lot of requirements. We can share some of that information with you later, but yeah, there are certain things that ought to be met, certain criteria, that you ought to meet in order for that to happen. So I think that's something that we can discuss later.
Got it. How will we know about the next session? Well, we'll work with GHPAC just to highlight the next date. Likely will be on a weekend, but we'll work on that. What we are trying to do is have these as monthly sessions, right? So likely in the next month, but we'll confirm the date shortly. Perhaps in a week or two, we'll just confirm the date and time for this. But we want to make this a monthly exercise with you all. So thank you very much for that question. Terry Opong, do property lawyers also double as estate planning attorneys specific to wills, trust, probate, estate, etc.?
Yeah, yes. So let me just give you a general idea of how we do our practice in Ghana. So in Ghana, we have both barristers, we have barristers and solicitors, and they are, so if I am a barrister and I'm also a solicitor, but in my case, I specialize in property law, real estate law. And but most Ghanaian lawyers are generalists. They do everything, they do mostly everything. But for my area of specialization, which is property law, we deal with a lot of trust, wills, estate planning, and stuff like that.
Got it. Okay, excellent. So I think I've gone through all the questions. There are a lot of questions, very engaged audience. I love it. I think a lot of people who are interested, very, very, very interested in real estate from this audience. As I said, I will share with you an email with the recording as well as with the deck as well. Feel free to reach out to us, especially if you want to reach out to Emmanuel. We'll share his contacts with you please feel free to reach out to us at Cecil Global if you want to begin your real estate journey. I don't know if there was another question that just came up. Okay, there's one more question. I'll take that question. No worries, and we'll perhaps end in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've seen a question. Quick, let me just answer this question. All right, quickly. So essentially, what we are doing in I'm talking about my firm is that we are trying to change the way things are done in Ghana. You see, with this sanitation thing that you're talking about, we have a law that governs that. You know, and as part of the planning, the building permits, you ought to present a document to show that you have waste planning, you have a plan for dealing with waste and stuff like that before you get a building permit. These things are not complied with, unfortunately. So I have managed to sue so far. I have sued about 6 or 7 people all over, cantonments all over, for failing to meet the sanitation requirements, for failing to meet traffic impact assessment requirements, for failing to meet setback. So the setback is the space between your wall and the building, you know, for failing to meet setback. And so far I've gotten 3 buildings demolished because of the setbacks. You know, so yes, it's because in Ghana we take a lot of things for granted. That is why I keep telling you guys that you should comply with the law. Because if you come across several lawyers like me, you get into trouble. Because I will go with the law and eventually the judge's hands will be tied. And when it comes to these kind of infringements, it's a strict liability. There's nothing like acquiescence and stuff like that.
100%. And yeah, I think that's what we like to see. We like to hear. It's very important to know that there are laws on the books, which is Emmanuel's point here. There are laws on the books to protect all buyers or all interested parties within these transactions. But there are people who decide to skirt the law, who are sometimes the developers, the brokers, etc. And so we are advising you as a client not to skirt the law so that you are protected by the law, right?
Yeah.
So that's really the most important aspect here. Forget about, you know, trying to save money here or there and not doing it, because really any land transaction, right, is typically the most important transaction, typically the most expensive transaction of most people's lives, right? So what we are telling you here is that let's just take that into advisement and make sure we are taking the proper steps, right? And so we are here to help you through that process. And what I like about, like as I mentioned at the start, that yes, there are non-credible actors in real estate in Ghana, but also there are credible actors, right? And so what we are really trying to do is create a platform, create a group, create a collection, you know, of people, of persons, institutions who are looking to grow this market and make sure we do legitimate business, right? More than anything, right? And make sure our name is not in the papers for anything bad, right? And so that's really part of it here, right? And so we're willing to help everybody here with that journey if you wish to start it. I think the last question here from Cecilia Asante. Would you advise a client to buy investment properties in your own name or in a registered company?
Well, I mean, it depends. Like, there's no straight answer to that. It depends on what you want to achieve with the property. If it's business, you're looking to sell and you want to limit your risk, then you ought to use a registered company, and that's a limited liability company. You know, but if it's for family and you know you're not looking to trade or do anything, then yes, why not? It can be your own name. It's easier to sell it to, I mean, to give it to your successors, etc.
Okay, excellent. I'm just putting some links here for everybody. I'm gonna add GHPAC's website link right here as well, and I've just put in there Cecil's link as well. I'll also add in there Barracks GH links as well over here as well. So feel free. I'll also put it in the email as well that I sent to everybody as well. We are truly, truly grateful to GHPAC and Barracks GH for putting this together. And then as well, we're very happy with Emmanuel as well for, you know, being here with us on the weekend, right, and answering our questions here today. So I want to give the floor to Adwoa as well. Any final words or comments?
Yes, unfortunately, our representative from Barracks couldn't join because of a personal emergency. But, when we're talking about good actors, and this is the sort of thing, we're trying to platform folks who we know are conducting business well. That includes Barracks. Obviously, it's owned by a diasporan, as well. So understand sort of the needs that we have. Emmanuel, I'm going to beg for you that you come back because Ghana time doesn't just exist in Ghana. Unfortunately, we carried it here. So there are now people waking up, oh, what is this? Because now they're hearing from their friends. This is really great information. And they're trying to log in and they're trying to. So I beg of you, we need you to come back and now that people understand, oh, okay, this is a different kind of real estate webinar than they've heard of in the past. This is the real deal information that we really need to know. No shade to other real estate webinars, but this is the real deal information. So Emmanuel, will been amazing today. And Kweku, thank you so much, because when we're talking about who can we work with, property management, who can help us navigate. Yes, I have my house now, but I need to buy multiple pieces of plots and land, even though I'm even inheriting some from my family. I still want more. Okay. So I'm going to be hollering at you anyway. So thank you guys so much. And the question that I got regarding, is GH Pack in the UK. I don't know if everyone saw my answer. We do have growing membership in the UK. And so please email us info@GhanaDiasporaPack.org if you're interested in joining that network who's organizing activities. Thank you so much.
Yeah, excellent. And I'll put my email here. I will send you all an email. So anyone who wants to contact me or contact anyone else, you can also reach out to me, right? And perhaps I even put my WhatsApp here, for those that want to disturb me a little bit, feel free to disturb me, right? Again, very, very happy to be on here with you all. Thank you very much, Adwoa, for having us host this with you all. And my good friend Erwin as well. I know he's dealing with something, but as I said, we deal with Barracks, very beautiful development that is being built out in East Legon. For those that want to live in East Legon, which East Legon is, of course, for those that know, other than Osu, the most popular suburb in Ghana, right? And so a great place to stay. I have a home there. I love East Legon. To be honest, when you stay in East Legon, you may not even need to leave East Legon. There's everything
You
there,
don't.
right? Yeah. So for those
Exactly.
interested, feel free. And of course, Emmanuel will be back. He'll be back. I think we are very grateful to Emmanuel for the session that he provided here. As I said, we'll share that deck with everybody. And I think we'll double down and come back again with the legal session. I think, to be honest with you, the legal sessions I find are usually the most interactive ones. There are a lot of questions around understanding that aspect, and people want to know and they need to know, right, as well. So we're happy to arm you with that information. As we said, it is always advisable, 100% to work with the lawyer, whether it is Emmanuel or someone else, right? It's very important to work with the lawyer when you're dealing with real estate, right? So again, thank you, everybody. I don't have anything else to say. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend. We will send you that email with the recording. Thank you all for the time. Bye-bye.